Hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th. So for the last 10 years now, it'll be 10 years, we haven't really had any hurricanes that hit Florida.
Right.
Since we had Wilma in 2005, and that was in October.
When was Faye?
Well, Faye was a tropical storm, and that was, I believe, 2008. We had Tropical Storm Faye, and that drenched the area.
Yeah, that's the one that flooded my house.
There was a lot of flooding in the area, and we only got hit by a Cat 1, which was Francis, and we got hit with a Cat 2, which was Jean in 2004.
Those were 3 weeks apart.
And 3 weeks apart, and then Wilma was in late in October of 2005, which was also a Cat 1, Cat 2 storm. But there was more damage south of St. Lucie and Martin County in West Palm, that area, and North Broward and stuff like that got hit harder than we did in this area. Plus, we were more hurricane proof up this way because we already had a lot of rebuilding done from the '04 season, and there was not as much damage up this way as there was in Palm Beach County. There was a lot of damage from Wilma, and that would be 10 years ago. You speak to a lot of people about hurricane coverage on their house, and they're not quite as concerned about it now because they think, the worst of it's over.
Yeah.
But at any time, at any season, that could shift. And
it doesn't seem to be predictable by anyone, really.
Yeah, they do a lot of predicting, but it's more like guesswork, if you ask me.
Yeah, every year you hear them say, "Oh, this is going to be a bad year," but I wonder what they base that on, and it just doesn't seem to, be predictable.
Hurricane Sandy that destroyed New York and New Jersey, that just passed us about 250 miles out, and we lucked out. It didn't hit Florida.
Yeah.
And normally those storms turn out into the Atlantic and head towards, Newfoundland or Finland and Europe. But for some reason, it was one of the first times a storm ever made a left-hand turn like that.
Yeah.
It was just like the freakiest thing, and Sandy really clobbered them up there. They were completely unprepared for that. That area hadn't been hit with a hurricane like that, and I think they said 70 years.
Now, when you're talking about homeowners insurance, when it comes to hurricanes, is it a very complex issue? Does it get really complicated, or is it pretty simple? Where isn't it something like they cover wind damage but not water damage, or is it simple? Or
well, you're absolutely right about that. Actually, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and hit the Gulf like that, the companies did break it up. There was a lot of tidal surge that was covered under flooding, and they tried to differentiate which was caused by flooding and what was caused by wind damage, because they're two separate policies.
But they didn't do that here, though.
Not here, because the flooding wasn't real bad. From ground surface water, from heavy rain, that's what a flood policy covers. Flood is a single peril policy, covers slow rising water, doesn't cover anything else. Whereas a homeowner's policy, it's like comprehensive coverage. It has a lot of causes of loss, a lot of perils: fire, lightning, theft, vandalism, sinkhole, hurricane, falling objects. It's a multi-peril policy, a homeowner's coverage.
So I have a homeowner's policy with you, so it does have hurricane insurance.
Covers hurricane, and in Florida they kind of split that coverage. They show you how much the regular policy covers, your fire, lightning, part of the homeowner's policy, as opposed to the wind coverage that you have. And a lot of times on policies, the hurricane coverage is many times over half the cost of the policy. So typically, if you got a policy that's $1,500, probably about $800 of that is the hurricane portion of the policy, or the windstorm portion of the policy.
Right. If you had to just end on one warning or one piece of advice about hurricane insurance, What would you say? What would be the number one thing?
You know, try to customize the policy so that, you know, you can afford it and continuously keep it in force.
Uh-huh.
And we can help you specialize and customize the coverages so that you can keep the cost down and still maintain, you know, a decent amount of protection
Uh-huh. Okay.
by doing so. And the best way to do that is we'll kind of educate you on what part of the policy covers what, and where you can cut back, and what you should have maybe more of, what you should have less of, and you can kind of customize a policy that'll fit your budget.
Right. I'm recording and taking the snapshot. Okay. Just because of the light's bright behind you, but yeah. Yeah, and I'll take